thank you for having us tonight, and thank you for coming to hear and see us. I want to thank the Arts Council for hosting us here tonight in their new Black Box Theater. It is just a state-of-the-art facility, and we're so happy to be here. Thank you. Bill and I and Dr. Sarah Perez are so happy and grateful to the Davis Phinney Foundation as well for sponsoring us and asking us to be here tonight. We hope that while we're here, we can share our Parkinson's story and lift your spirits and encourage you all to have a really lovely and holy holiday season. Remember, happiness is a decision. And hopefully by the end of the hour, you will be more knowledgeable on how Parkinson's may affect musicians, learn a bit about resilience and how to implement creativity in building resilience in order to live well with Parkinson's. And along the way, we're going to share some music and a few laughs, I bet, too.
Thank you again, Davis Phinney Foundation, for having us, and for the Greater Baton Rouge Arts Council for letting us use their state-of-the-art facility. So to start off, just talking a little bit about musicians in general, they're basically professional athletes of the small muscles. So the fingers, the arms, the lips, the mouth. And musicians, like professional athletes, have keen body awareness and likely to notice symptoms of something like Parkinson's much more in advance than those who don't rely on their body for such a level of practice and perfection. So I partner with several people, professional musicians who have Parkinson's. And as many of you know out there, Parkinson's is different for everyone. And musicians have a unique set of challenges when it comes to Parkinson's. Initial symptoms of someone in the music field who has Parkinson's may involve the breathing muscles, the hand and lips, the embouchure, the voice, how someone might read music or interpret pitch or rhythm, just to name a few things. And so, Jan, what were some of your first symptoms? Would you like to share?
Sure, absolutely. It was late in the year of 2005, and it was right after Katrina, I remember. But to back up just a bit, we in Louisiana had suffered through that Katrina, and I had had personally a very stressful year. And I noticed then that I began to have this tremor in my left-hand thumb. And one day in the cello studio, I was accompanying a student, and I could not control my left hand. I had octaves I was playing, repetitions, trills, tremolos, and they would just stop. I couldn't keep them going. I thought, this is really strange. I don't have pain. You know, it was very strange. I knew something was not right. So after seeing a local neurologist for several visits and a lot of tests, which turned up nothing, of course, I decided to travel out of state and seek the advice or diagnosis from another movement disorder specialist. And perhaps that would tell me what I wanted to hear, which was that I was just working too hard and needed a vacation. But that was not to be. When I arrived at this specialist's office, the first thing he asked me to do was to walk across the room and back. Well, I strode with confidence and returned to the chair where he invited me to sit. He bluntly and matter-of-factly said, "I think you have Parkinsonism." He arrived at that conclusion because I did not swing my left arm as much as my right arm when I was walking. My immediate reaction was panic, and I began to cry. He tried to reassure me by telling me that he thought I was going to be just another prima donna come to see him with some anxiety issues. But no, he said, you really have something. He asked me if I still put on my eye makeup, my own eye makeup. You know, it's been nearly 16 years since that day, and I still put on my own eye makeup. But the real kicker was his parting advice to me. He said, come back when you need a disability letter because I write a really good one. I thought that was terrible. As unhappy as I was to have received this diagnosis, I realized that there have been so many more who have suffered and succumbed to Parkinson's. With that in mind, we would like to dedicate this next piece to them. It's called Litany by Franz Schubert. Although it wasn't discovered until after his death, this beautiful melody is indeed a musical salve for the soul, and it means all souls rest in peace. Litany.
receiving a diagnosis of Parkinson's is often life-changing and can be devastating. Everyday life can be difficult and present unique challenges. This is even more apparent, perhaps, in the lives of persons who rely on their fine motor coordination for their livelihood. Jan, how did this diagnosis affect you, and what did you do to cope?
Obviously, I was thrown for a loop. I felt as if I were watching someone else receive this news, certainly not me. I was faced with losing my ability to play the piano, among many other things. I wasn't going to be Jan the pianist anymore, the way people knew me. Well, then who was I and what was I going to do? Determined to go on, I returned to LSU to continue my teaching and playing duties. I did so for 11 years before retiring in 2017. I continued to do a lot of reading about PD because by now I had accepted the diagnosis, but with this caveat: I may have Parkinson's, but Parkinson's does not have me. So I had read recently that Parkinson's disease brings up images in the general public that do not fit us accurately. It is not a disease, but more of a condition. As for someone once said, it's an inconvenience for musicians. It was a terrible inconvenience for me when I couldn't play those figures anymore. But I fill my days with activities to be the best that I can be. I start my day with piano. I play the piano every single day. Exercises, some little melodic pieces I've played before just for fun, always a little sight reading. And sometimes these activities are so pleasing to me that they help me with my off times. Sometimes, in fact, once I was practicing and having so much fun, I went an hour and a half past my dosage time. Mm-hmm. And I had no indication in my body or symptoms. It was just amazing. So the dopamine came automatically, I guess.
Other patients have said that too, Jan. They get tied up in activities that they enjoy, and quite often they'll go without their medicines and not even know it. And I think you're right about rethinking what we say about Parkinson's. I believe something you said to me before is taking Parkinson's off its pedestal and
yes.
Making the letters lowercase. And then
yes.
also the disease part.
Yes, you know, people look at us like maybe we shouldn't do things that normal people do. Well, we need to, and it's important in order to be happy. I have a little story about how I educate people. I like to think I educate somebody about Parkinson's every day. Well, this particular example I'm about to tell you is especially gratifying because it's so funny. I was on my way home one day and I felt, I'm going to stop at the dollar store because I just need one little thing. So I pulled in and thought, there aren't many people here. This is going to be good. Well, I was struggling a little bit with my cart that was outside, getting into the front door, just when another woman pulled in. And so she said, "Do you need help?" I said, "Well, if you could just get the door for me. I have Parkinson's and I'm a little slow right now." Well, she went in with me and she said, she wanted to help me right away. "What do you need?" I said, No, please. I'm going to get it by myself. I'm fine." Oh, no, she wouldn't hear of it. She insisted on helping me. Well, then she started asking questions. "Do you have a family?" I said, "Yes, I have 2 sons, but they're grown now." "Do you have a husband?" "Yes, he's at home and we're going to have lunch as soon as I get back." "Does he know you're out?" Well, that was the kicker. I couldn't believe it. It was quite the event. And of course, I've enjoyed it because I've told the story so many times.
Yeah. So another thing about a disease, I mean, it indicates someone's ill, which people like Jan, you're not ill. You don't need to be in isolation. Mm-hmm. Another thing that the word disease implies is that there's just one cause of Parkinson's. And the more that we find out about Parkinson's, the more we know how different it is amongst people about, what symptoms they have, but also to a molecular level, there might be 20 different ways to get to a dopamine deficiency of the brain. So just calling it disease implies it's just one condition, when in fact it's probably multiple conditions that lead to a final pathway. So as we continue to try to define exactly what Parkinson's is, Parkinson's quite often can help redefine a person's life who's been diagnosed with it. And Jan, how has Parkinson's redefined you?
Well, it really has redefined me because I knew that I was more than just a pianist. I'm a multifaceted person. as we all are. And so I knew I need to capitalize on those things. So I continued to perform with my colleagues and an occasional recording session. I actually have a CD coming out with a former colleague at LSU, trumpet player Brian Shaw. And this also made time for the other activities that I loved, but I had put aside for my career, namely sewing. So I set up my sewing room once again, as it had been long ago. And with the generosity of fabric remnants from a very dear friend, I began making Japanese knot bags. That's K-N-O-T. Japanese knot bags are not my creation. They've been around for a very long time, and they are wonderful for women who have arthritis and can't handle buttons, buckles, zippers, and such. So they're extremely easy to make. To date, I have given away nearly 100 of them. And this particular one is so fun because it's reversible. Voila.
Ta-da!
So I also make kitchen boas. Now we know a boa is a very glamorous item and accessory. This is not quite so glamorous, but it's very useful. A kitchen boa, you know how you never have a towel when you really need it? Well, now you do. Pick up pots, wipe your hands, wipe the countertop, whatever. Throw it in the washing machine and start new the next day. I have also had time to be involved in more charitable and volunteer work. So I created a women's support group because I know how difficult it can be to get a conversation going in a large support group. And women have a lot to talk about. That isn't the same for men with Parkinson's.
That's exactly right. I think it's very helpful to find your group, your small group within these larger Parkinson's support groups where you can really get down to the nitty gritty and get to know each other and tell each other how you're feeling about things and build a good social support network that way.
That's right. And actually, it was also through Sarah that I met some of the people from the Davis Phinney Foundation, and after a short time became an ambassador for them. And that volunteer work has been really great. I have just thoroughly enjoyed all my interactions with the Davis Phinney Foundation. Which leads me to telling you the story about Sarah and myself. My husband Bill and I had just spoken at the Louisiana Federation of Music Clubs conference in Baton Rouge on the healing power of music. Afterwards, we're greeting our friends and the listeners, and there was a woman who was desperate to talk to me. She said, I just have to talk to you. I just have to talk to you. You need to meet my daughter-in-law. You need to meet my daughter-in-law. And I said, I really need to go to the bathroom. She said, I'll go with you. Boom. So we went and discussed all of this, and she told me about her daughter-in-law. Well, it turned out that I knew her daughter-in-law. In fact, I had accompanied her senior recital at LSU in 2004 as a clarinet major. Mm-hmm. And there she was. Yeah. So you want to say what happened in between the years?
Yeah, so after undergraduate, I auditioned for several positions. I didn't get any. So I was working as an optician at the time, helping people with their eyeglasses, and realized my love for helping people. And so I went back to medical school at LSU in New Orleans, and then did my training in UAB in Birmingham, Alabama. Along the way, having 4 kids and the 5th on the way. And just a few weeks actually before being reunited with Jan, I was praying for an opportunity to play professionally again. And lo and behold, we reunited. Yeah. And we've been playing at Parkinson support group meetings since 2017.
That's right. And hence our logo and our title, we call ourselves Full Circle, from music to medicine. So we started together in 2004 with that senior recital. We both went our separate paths in life. 2017, we reunited. In fact, at a Parkinson's conference held at Pennington Biomedical Center in Baton Rouge. And I remember Sarah saying to me, would you speak with me? Would you talk with me? I said, we're doing that right now. She said, no, I mean, go places and talk. Well, I said I certainly would love that. And since that day, we have been talking with groups of people or anyone who wants to know a little bit more about Parkinson's and who loves music, because we play always within our presentations. So we've really been having a great time. So in fact, our very first gig was at Christmas time. And with that in mind, we're going to play another tune for you. This is "Oh Christmas Tree."
That was a wonderful arrangement by Bill Grimes. You really can't see him in the background. Bill, can you wave? Can you come out from the shadows for a second? Show your face. There he is. Oh, there he is. So talented. So many of my patients actually report that they have an awakening of creativity since their diagnosis. So in other words, activities that have come about since receiving the diagnosis of Parkinson's. Some people bake, which benefits me or doesn't benefit me, however you want to look at it, from painting to music to other very creative activities. There's actually medical literature on this. One paper I pulled up from 2014 suggested that it's not only the changes in the brain from Parkinson's, but that in combination with dopamine medicines has been shown to enhance verbal and visual creativity compared to neurologically, it says healthy, but we'll say normal controls. So there was some thought in the past it was related to what's called impulse control issues, which could also be related to dopamine therapy. But this paper said there's no correlation with that. It's actually just the combination of someone who has Parkinson's plus their dopamine medicine. So it's very interesting to think that Parkinson's can actually unlock creativity. Jan, you're a very creative person to begin with, but have you had any more muses to come?
Well, funny you should ask, because I never thought of myself as a poet or was ever interested in poetry by any stretch of the imagination. But now I love it. I just love it. And so I'm going to share with you a trilogy of poems about my sewing machine, my Bernina, who I call Bernie. Bernie, my trusted Bernina sewing machine, my confidant, my partner in creation. He is my therapist too. Sewing with others in mind, how to help ease the stress, turn an ordinary day special. Wanted to give to others, to make life a little easier. Not bags, a la Bernie and me came to be. With Bernie's help, I modified, accessorized, and glamorized not bags for every taste and fashion. Over 100 bags have been gifted to date. Bernie, my mate, and I still create and liberate. Made from shop remnants of linen and tapestry, pressed, pleated, and put away, each one awaits its freedom day. This makes me happy, distracts me from my pain and prognosis, makes daily life better too. Sewing, sometimes mindless, justifies thinking time, conjuring up memories of past problems, regrets for hurtful words, wishing for redos. Bernie gives me the time and space I need to think. And all the while, he just needles along. His rhythm lulls me into daydreams, and I play what if with myself and explore possibilities unlimited. Before I know it, my problems find solutions, my sewing project resolution, both good things because my bobbin thread has met its conclusion. The second one is called Broken Bernie. My bestie Bernie is broken, his bobbin case the fault. It's frozen in position and won't budge under assault. I did some minor surgery to excise the sickly case, click that, lift this, and finally created a hollow space. Akin to having Parkinson's, Bernie is stuck in place with no recourse or options. He's forced to face disgrace. This PD reference is no accidents, for I do wear the badge. Hiding it occasionally, but listen, here's the catch. Denying PD is no good, no matter the skill at camo, for when the meds turn off, you're left with zero ammo. So with Bernie, there's no denying. His symptoms are clear. He's going to the fix-it shop because I hold him dear. And finally, my Bernie is back. My Bernie is back, no worse to wear for the trip, happy and content and fast as a whip. The first night away found him fretful and praying. His bedtime litany included, hope I'm not staying. By day, he could hear the miserable groanings of his fellow inmates as they went through their honings. Good patient was he, model inmate to others, and yet all the while proclaiming his druthers, that he'd rather be home feeding the thread and humming his tune, not idle lying in bed. Bernie's now fixed, oiled here and there. I'm happy to be home, he said, and like new, my dear. So, poetry and other enjoyable activities I mentioned before fill my days and even some of my nights. To keep my life stress-free and not too busy, I knew that I needed to make some changes in my life, some adjustments. So I began to distill my relationships and my activities. I discarded acquaintances and activities that were toxic or downers and kept only those friendships and actions that enriched my soul. I didn't want anything to interfere with my efforts to live in the present and to live well. Even though I did make these adjustments, that's not to say that I don't miss parts of my life. With Parkinson's, there's never a time when you can relax and expect something to happen automatically that used to. Everything has to happen with intention now. So I grieve for what I've lost. And I believe everyone can relate to that grieving, those who've lost friends and family from the pandemic, to the recent major hurricanes that have wrecked parts of the South and the Gulf Coast in general. This next piece is entitled, Do You Know What It Means to Miss New Orleans?
So as you can see, Jan has done Jan has done very well for the past 16 years, enjoying life, being productive, and living a fulfilling life. So this is in contrast, unfortunately, to some others who tend to grow small, shrink away when they have the diagnosis of Parkinson's. So what makes the difference? Jan's lifestyle changes that she's built into her life has built what is called resilience. And there's growing attention on what exactly resilience is, as it can profoundly affect the overall health of an individual, whether it be someone with a chronic condition, a high pressure job, or someone living through a global pandemic. So what is resilience, and what are some of the qualities of someone who is resilient? Well, to quote a paper from the literature from 2020, Babek et al., they have a really nice, succinct definition. They said that resilient individuals tend to be optimistic, have a tendency to see everything as a useful experience, focus on personal strengths and qualities, use constructive criticism, develop close relationships with others, have developed social skills, and are emotionally conscious. Good resilience aggravates and prevents the onset of disease, provides good health, facilitates and accelerates healing, and provides productive life and a sense of well-being despite chronic illness. So having resilience can lead to better health, better coping, and a better life in general. So living well with Parkinson's certainly requires that people reevaluate their lives and find creative ways to get around the minor inconveniences of Parkinson's. So Jan and Bill actually have some wonderful workarounds, some hacks, if you will, for everyday life with Parkinson's, as do many of my patients. And I share these tricks with others during the appointments, from slick jammies that help you roll in bed, to miniature ramps in the house, to the magnetic shirts that we've seen on the internet. There's various ways to address the problems that Parkinson's creates for many people. So with that being said, Jan, would you like to share some hacks?
First of all, I guess in order to be resilient, you have to have a really open mind so that those creative ideas can find their way in. And that resilience makes you available to take care of situations. All of my hacks come out of necessity, for example. Playing the piano with dyskinesia, for example, moving around can be dangerous and embarrassing. So I do two things. I sit on a silicone pad, the kind that you put under a rug so it doesn't slip, so I don't actually slip off the bench. Ta-da! Okay. And if necessary, now I didn't need it tonight, but I use a TheraBand, one of my TheraBands, and I tie it around my legs to keep them together so that my legs are not dancing under the piano too much. That's the way I describe it anyway. I also use these miniature clothespins. They're actually for sewing and holding fabric together. But I use them at restaurants when I'm holding my napkin and I don't want it to fall on the floor 10 times. So I just put my napkin there, slip that little clip right there, it holds it in place. Voila, it saves a lot of stooping over, bending over, getting my napkin off the floor. And of course, I use my rollator, my walker, as a cart. I use it to carry laundry to and from the washer and dryer. I carry dishes on my walker. Occasionally even brought Bill his coffee in the morning on the walker. Basically, I can carry anything on the walker. I never make a trip through the house that I'm not taking something with me and bringing something back. I also, and this may not be a new trick, but I take a rubber band and put it around lids that are difficult to open. For example, soft drink lids, mayonnaise jars, things like that. It gives me a good grip, and I can usually open things well that way.
Wow, I need to use that one myself, the lid thing.
It's for everybody.
Yes. So the Davis Phinney Foundation actually put out a very nice webinar in July of 2018 on how to build resiliency and live well with Parkinson's. So there's 5 things listed on how to cultivate resilience in your life, and I'll just read down the list, and if you want to comment,
Okay.
Jan, on each one,
All right.
that'd be great. So the first one they have is to get and stay connected.
Okay, having Parkinson's makes it imperative that you have good relationships with people, very close friends, and a loving and helpful community of people, because you're going to need them. It's not healthy physically or emotionally to isolate oneself out of embarrassment or fear. I got over my embarrassment a long time ago. I was afraid to walk into a restaurant with a cane or a walker, but I realized that if I stayed away because of that, I wouldn't have any fun. I wouldn't go anywhere. So it's really important that you don't keep yourself from doing these things. It's too much fun. Fostering good relationships will also help you maintain a positive outlook, even when there's little hope. And most of all, don't be ashamed of yourself. You are as valuable a human being as anybody else. And just love yourself, and then you won't be so worried about going out in public and looking weird. And that's one way of educating people. Remember, just get out there.
Get out there.
Mm-hmm.
So number 2 is take control of what you can take control of.
Well, as a professional pianist, I quickly realized that I could not maintain the high level of performance that I always required of myself. So rather than force something that would not work, I changed my focus. For example, I focused more on my teaching rather than performing. And that's how I was able to continue working at LSU for 11 years after my diagnosis.
And actually, Jan created and implemented a master's program for collaborative piano at LSU. So it provides additional training to pianists who would like to be like Jan and accompany people. So she's created a legacy at LSU with this program.
Thank you.
So multiplying your gifts.
Thanks.
So number 3 is adjust expectations.
This is pretty much the same as recognizing what you can and cannot control. None of us are ever really in control of our lives. And it causes great stress and personal turmoil for us to demand of ourselves the same level of activities we had before our diagnosis. We must lower our expectations, take into account that PD is always out there trying to get in our way. He's like the elephant in the room. He's never not there.
Right.
And always on our mind.
Right. And, I have to tell people to be realistic and adjust expectations for people who don't have Parkinson's, just with just normal aging. I mean, you can't compare yourself to the you 20 years ago because it's just not fair because you're not that person anymore. So number 4, especially important for people with Parkinson's, is plan for when you are at your best.
Well, planning is something that every person with Parkinson's is accustomed to. We plan to take our meds, then we plan our meals around that, and we know when to expect our off times, and we know when we get tired and need a rest. I often feel like Cinderella at the ball, if I'm somewhere and I realize, gosh, I've got to be home in 20 minutes. I carry my medicine with me, but I recognize that the time is drawing near, and I don't want to turn into a pumpkin. So, but if you're successful in your planning, there's a very good chance that your life will reflect that with serenity and inner calm. And this is something to congratulate yourself about.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. So the last thing they've listed is practice self-compassion and acceptance.
Accepting ourselves as we are, acknowledging the PD and the difficulties we face because of it, trying to feel at peace rather than let those inner judges take over your thoughts. Those inner judges can be very harsh. So don't be so hard on yourself.
Thank you, Jan. Mm-hmm. And I think this list can apply to any one of us having gone through this pandemic, actually still going on. So building resiliency. So I think it's a very helpful list. So
at this time, I'm going to give you my message of hope. As with all negative situations, I like to hold out hope for improvement, or at least minimal worsening. And so it is with Parkinson's. I regard my journey through this challenging time as a distillation of who I really am. I have come to know myself so much better since my diagnosis. I now can see what really matters in this life, and I'm filtering out those things and people who do not contribute to my feeling of wellness and happiness. I plan to use every bit of perseverance in my body to stay the course, even when there is little or no evidence of success. For you see, even though there is no cure, Parkinson's has shown me the silver lining, and thus my life is fuller and more meaningful than it really has ever been. Now, don't rush to any conclusions about my sanity, because it was PD that took me off the stress track and gave me the time to cherish my family and friends, as well as to be open to new avenues of creativity. Remember, I may have PD, but PD does not have me. So I say to all of you with PD or anyone who is having to live outside of an ideal situation, look for the silver lining and live well.
Thank you so much,
You're
Jan.
welcome.
Please use tonight as an impetus to reach out to someone you know with Parkinson's or another chronic condition to see the value of their life and to support them and uplift them in this journey that we're doing together. And with that, we thank you for tuning in this evening. We hope that you've been uplifted and inspired. From our team here at the Black Box Theater and the Greater Arts Council of Baton Rouge, we wish you and your family a blessed holiday season. So we will end tonight with the winter classic, Winter Wonderland, and we'll be happy to take your questions after the piece.
Jan and Sarah, I think I speak for everyone when I say that that was an amazing presentation and just stunning, stunning music tonight. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So we have just a few minutes here, and there are some questions in the chat that I'm sure everyone would love to hear your perspective on. The first one comes from Wayne Gilbert, who many of us in the Parkinson's community know as a fabulous poet. But he asks a really, really great question that we hear a lot from our community, which is, what if a person is interested in getting involved in the creative arts, whatever that may be, but they're intimidated by it or they've never been creative before in their life? How do they even go about starting that?
Well, honestly, I think it's important just to pick something and dive in. And don't expect yourself to be perfect at it right away. I certainly have not been with my poetry, but be open to advice from others and help. and just enjoy whatever you can do.
Just enjoy it. Just pick what you enjoy and go with it. Don't judge yourself.
Right.
Absolutely. I think don't judge yourself is huge. Just like you were saying before, right? Just do it for the love of creativity. I know one of our ambassadors, Lorraine Wilson, would definitely say that it's about the process, not the product.
That's the beauty of creativity. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's you. You created it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes it beautiful.
Right.
So another question we have here is, and you might have to give us a little bit of background on this project as well, but they say, hi, Jan from England here. Could you tell us how being part of the Picturing Parkinson's project has impacted you?
Well, that was an incredible experience to be involved in that class based in the UK. I met wonderful people. I met Jan, and we're now friends. And I really started to see how important it was for Parkinson's people to have a voice, be it through art, poetry, music. So important for them to be able to express how they feel to other people and for people to listen. I think that's a really big thing, big factor. So it had a huge impact on me. Yes.
And do you mind sharing a little bit about what that project was?
Well, the project, the outcome of the class, I'll call it that, the workshop, Jan and the people at University of Oxford created a 3-minute video of all the poetry and paintings that we had done in the class. And Bill and I came up with some underpinning music for that video. Bill composed it, I played it, he recorded it, and then we sent it to Jan Sargent, and they put it all together. And it was premiered at the World Parkinson's Day.
Oh, wow. How cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. We have one more I think we can fit in here, maybe two. And this one is, excuse me, just pulling it up here. Knowing what you now know about Parkinson's, would you encourage others with Parkinson's to learn how to play a musical instrument?
Oh,
That's a toughie. Again, it kind of goes back to the first answer. If you're interested in something, go ahead and pursue it. You're not going to know unless you try. Now, there does come a point if something is so aggravating that, if something is getting aggravating, that makes it unpleasant. And at that point, you should step away and then try again later. But I say, if you have an interest in it, you should go ahead and pursue it. Music has many healing properties.
it sure does.
It enhances neuroplasticity, and so it works with fine motor skills. So there's many wonderful things about music. So if you're interested in it, you pursue it and you do what you can, and forgive yourself and have some expectations before you do it.
You have no idea how many people come up to me and say, I played the piano when I was young, and then I gave it up, and now I wish I had stuck with it. Is it too late for me to go back? No, go back to the piano. So, yeah.
Great encouraging words. I love that. Never too late for music or art or any of the creativity.
Nope.
Great. Well, I think to close us out here, we have a really nice comment from somebody that I'd like to read. And they said, I have also learned that when we need to ask a random stranger for help, we are giving that person a gift, because most people feel so good about being able to help. Their example is that they had to ask for help in a parking lot on their way to the car when they couldn't move forward. So I think especially with this holiday season coming up, it is okay to ask for help. It is okay to reach out for the support of others. And like Jan and Sarah have been saying this entire time, celebrate all your victories, like we would say, and do what you can, and just do it for the love of it.
Right. Yeah. That's right.
Excellent.
Live well.
Live well. Yes. Well, thank you so much, both of you. We were so glad to have you here tonight. Like I said, I know our audience just absolutely loved it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
You as well.